I'm Doug and this is AnimeCons TV. This month we finally talk about procrastination when it comes to a cosplay project. I sit down with Ed Chavez from Vertical Inc. and Patrick does an app recap with the apps you can use at cons.
This month, we're going to talk about procrastination when it comes to cosplay projects. Now, everyone's been there. I don't care how well organized you are. You think you've given yourself enough time and suddenly you're spending your entire convention sewing in the hotel room. And that's not fun for anyone. It's not fun for you or your roommates, and you can't get to see anything at the convention. So we're going to give you a few tips to try to avoid it and then what to do when it does happen. Some of the things to do to avoid it is you want to try to schedule the few months leading up to the convention. It also depends kind of on how long your project is. There's going to be some things you have to work on for an entire year, but most things usually in the next 3 to 4 months before a convention, you want to start making plans. Whether it comes to when you're going to buy your materials or even start hunting for them, because sometimes those can take longer than you think, to actually working and constructing your project. What I like to do is actually make a little schedule in a notebook. And so I'll write down all the weekends or maybe free time I might have on the weekdays leading up to a convention and try to pencil in how much time I think it's going to take. And then I actually give myself extra time because it never takes as much time as you think it's going to. Some things will go faster and some things will go slower. And that's a good start for budgeting your time. As far as, once you have a schedule, the hard part is actually keeping on it. Sometimes you hit a wall, things don't go well, you get frustrated, you can't find the thing you want, you get the wrong thing. Something always comes up. And when that happens, it's really good to have a support system. Now, some things you can do, my friends and I have done it, is schedule a sewing party. And this works best usually with your relatively small driving distance of each other. But what you can do is make an event where a whole bunch of you get together for a day or for a weekend and bring all your projects together and actually work on them. This is great because sometimes you can get advice with your friends. You can go shopping for fabric with your friends and give each other ideas. Or if you're having trouble with a certain part, maybe someone knows how to tackle it, and their work can also inspire yours if someone's is going really well. The other thing we try to do, and usually it's an option if maybe you don't live close to each other, or obviously if you're having a sewing party, it's not really convenient to maybe have one every weekend, is to use social media. We've used Facebook to make groups and to post pictures of each other's progress, to update each other about how it's going. We post things we're having trouble with, things we're frustrated about, and it's just nice to have a few people out there to say, just keep working at it, or I had that problem and I tried this, or I found a perfect pattern for what we're doing and I post the name and number of it, or I found a sale at Joann's. Things like that just encourages you, and the support system of a group, it's like any other group. It not only pushes you to keep going because you're inspired by what other people are doing, but kind of forces you to keep on track because you have someone to answer to. Now, you've tried all these things. Sometimes it still gets to be really close to the convention and you're way behind schedule. You've procrastinated, things didn't go right, and now you're in panic mode. Okay, so what do you do now? The first thing you want to try to do is try as hard as it is not to panic. And usually the only good way to do that is to try to come up with a game plan. Try to really compartmentalize your time. Like, I have between 6 and 8 p.m. tonight, I'm going to accomplish this, and that. And try to stick to it as best as possible. By feeling like you're doing something, it kind of lessens the panic and you can feel like you have a plan of attack. But if it gets to be the day of the convention and you still have work to do, now it's time to make a difficult decision. Some things, yes, can be done in hotel rooms. You kind of have to balance what you have left to do versus what your time is going to be and what your materials and access to things like sewing machines or, glue guns or whatever you're going to need are in a hotel room. So if it's something where you're doing a quick fix, or maybe it's an hour the night you get there, maybe that's worthwhile to put to the convention. But if it's going to be something that's going to take your entire weekend, you might want to be the bigger person, or make the mature decision to say, this is not going to get done. We're going to have to postpone this for another time. And we all have to be kind of supportive and understanding when that happens to people. So as much as we want to try to avoid that, if it gets to that point, sometimes it's better to sacrifice this project you're working on to, missing the entire convention and just being miserable and stressed out that you're trying to finish a project.
We're here with Ed Chavez from Vertical, who's one of the publisher of a lot of Japanese written media, and also manga, as well as cookbooks and craft books and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And so you've been a fan for a long time.
Yeah.
What was your first convention?
My first convention, wow. Let's see, I don't remember the year, but it was actually Fanime. I'm from the Bay Area, and anybody who's lived out there for a while is possibly aware that there are a lot of anime clubs. I went to Berkeley, so some of the origins of Japanese, J-pop fandom in the U.S. is kind of from there. But as a teen, I made the trip down to Foothill College to see Fanime. Just because of what was going down over there, to actually have an opportunity to see some of the people from Gainax was like, whoa, holy shit. And to eventually, find out that the people that I was, seeing at panels and like Carl Horn were part of the industry was kind of shocking, because they weren't all that much older than I was at the time. So that was pretty cool.
Along that line, so you kind of have made the transition from just being a fan to working in the industry.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was that process like?
It was, obviously it took a little bit of time, and it wasn't something that I was actually intending on pursuing. I went through a number of other professions along the way, but I think maybe just as many fans have, just obsessive behavior ended up leading me to this. I ended up starting off just randomly doing reviews at the Anime on DVD forums, and wasn't even authorized to do them. I was just posting it up on the forums. Before there wasn't even a manga section on the site, and eventually Chris over there asked me to be an actual reviewer, and that kind of ended up leading to other things. And I was still doing other jobs. I was in the theater as a theater manager actually for a while, and eventually people like Publishers Weekly started contacting me to write about this stuff, and I was working for 7Cs and Viz and CMX doing freelance work. Previously, I'd already had done some translation work when I was in college, because Japanese history was my major. But I wasn't really looking into that for a while. And lo and behold, after a couple of years, I ended up working in Japan and coming back here after a couple of years to actually work in the industry here.
Yeah. And I know it's kind of the dream of a lot of people. Is there any advice you would give to someone who wants to work in the industry?
Well, it does sound like a dream, and I'll just be very realistic with people. It is a lot of hard work, and many of the things that people who get into the industry quickly learn is that it's a lot of give and take. Things that you would ideally want may not easily be accepted, because obviously there are creators out there, and those people have a lot more say in their work than you do, sharing it with other people. And that took me a little bit of time to get used to, but once I actually was working in Japan, I really could see it, because the authors are really involved. And there are other layers on top of that too, editors and producers and the like, especially when you start dealing with anime. But that's one thing. And then the amount of work that might be put into is can be pretty intense. Working a 9-to-5 job is what most of us think of, when we're thinking of a career. But I can't speak for the anime side too much, but in publishing, forget about that. Your hours are crazy. Deadlines are always on top of you. So, and you always want to make sure that the fans and the readers and the audience is they're going to enjoy what you're going to present to them. So you don't want to cut corners, right? So, 10 to 10 day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week is not unheard of. Like, we're in the middle of con season right now, right? So I've been to, in the last 2 months, like 7 cons. So imagine what my weekends are.
Yeah.
3-day, 4-day cons. Like San Diego Comic Con is a 5-day con, and I go back to the office almost every Monday. That's kind of brutal.
Yeah. But so you see a lot of conventions then. Are there any things you see that you wish more conventions would do?
I think it's you're coming from the publishing side, and it's I don't know. I think it's just a reaction to the fact that the manga boom has, it was a boom, and we're now going into a correction phase. Things are kind of picking up a little bit, but I feel that there's, and obviously this is very selfish and biased, but I think there is a little bit of imbalance of that type of programming. And obviously it's, you can only do so much. I mean, anime, you can just go and have an anime room, and have videos going all times, and you can always bring voice actors and the like, and producers, to discuss things like that. And manga, what can you do? I mean, you can obviously bring an artist. Obviously the publisher could be there, but what else, right? I mean, are you going to have translator panels? Are you going to have letterer panels? But there are other ways to look at that too. I mean, you can look at this content from a historical perspective, from a cultural perspective, different genres. I mean, thankfully, manga is still a visual medium, so you can still have if someone has the time, they can still make a nice presentation that's entertaining that way. So, I'd like to see a little bit more of that. I'm also a film fan, so I didn't get to see a lot of AMVs when I was on the West Coast, and to see a little bit more of that in the East Coast has been really interesting. So I wish there was a lot more directed programming with that, with a lot more curated AMV tracks, instead of just putting anything out, having specific lines for or themes for AMV tracks. But that's just me.
And where can people find more about what you're up to?
Yeah, I mean, you can find vertical information up at our website, which is vertical-inc.com, so ink being INC. We are also on Twitter. That's possibly the best way to get information from us, and we're very active there, so we answer all sorts of questions, not just about our company, but the industry as a whole. And our handle there is vertical_ed. And we do have a Facebook, vertical.inc. People want to go in there and friend us. We have all sorts of exclusive art and polls and the like up there, so that's pretty helpful too.
Great, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
No, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
So I'm going to talk about some apps you can use at conventions this month. And I've tried a lot of these at conventions and they've come in very handy, so I want to share some of my findings with you. First, I'll talk about one that's called Guidebook. A lot of conventions use this to present their schedules and information on guests, and it's a great way to keep track of what you want to see at the convention. And so in Guidebook, you can go in, you can download a new guide. They've got tons of different conventions, not just anime conventions, but there's a lot of professional conventions. But when you find the one you want, you can download, oh, here's Cosplay Mania 12. You just hit download, it adds it, and then you can go in. We'll go into Costume Con. And you can view the schedule. Now here's my first Costume Con. If you want to say, oh, I want to add this to my schedule, you hit that, and you can set a reminder if you want, and it's added to your schedule, and then you can go and view my schedule, and it shows all the panels and events that you said you wanted to see. Now the features for each convention are different. Some have more detailed guest listings, some have Twitter feeds in here. It varies by convention what the convention is paid for, or if they're using the free version. But it's definitely worth checking out if you're at a convention to see if they're on Guidebook. Usually they will say so on their website or in their program guide. And if you run a convention, definitely look into Guidebook. There is a free version that allows so many downloads and so many features, or you can pay for different levels of features. Another app we'll look at is Find Friends. This is an iPhone app by Apple, and you can sign in, and if you have friends who also have iPads or iPhones, you can sign in and see exactly where your friends are. And so it's like the ultimate stalker tool, but at a convention it can be quite handy because you can see it, well, here's not very detailed, but you can get in and actually find out, oh, they're at the hotel or they're over the convention center. They haven't left for the con yet. And you can change your permissions to allow somebody to see you for a certain time, or you can say, okay, I'm done letting people see where I am, and turn it off. But it's very handy. There's also Square. If you're a dealer, you can use Square to take credit card payments. Now, a lot of dealers already have credit card systems set up for their big systems, but if you're an artist in Artist Alley, you could use this to take credit cards. When people say, oh, well, I'm out of money, you're in luck. I support Square. You can sign up for Square for free, and they will give you a little dongle, a little thing that plugs into your headphone jack. You swipe credit cards on that, and you can get credit card transactions on your iPad or iPhone or Android. So it's great for getting that little extra money at the convention, and it's good for convenience for your customers. Speaking of that, if you're out to eat, Check Please. I love this app. You always have to wonder, how much do I tip? You might not know the right amount. Check Please, you put in the bill amount. So if it's a $52 meal, eaten big, it says the tip is $1.60 at 17% with 5 people. So it's all split evenly, or you can say, no, I want the whole thing. Now it's a $9 tip and at $61. So yeah, it's a good way to easily figure out the tip. Another app I want to talk about is the calendar. Now, you may think there's nothing special about that, but you'll see all my weekends are full. And why is that? Because I have subscribed to the AnimeCons.com calendar. There's a iCal feed we have, and the URL is down here. You can add that into iCal on your Mac or any calendar program on a PC, and you will get our database of calendars for the current year imported into your calendar. So you can easily see at a glance, like go, oh, let's say this weekend we've got this con going on, and here it is, and there's a link to more information. Or if you don't want to see that, you can easily just turn it off, and they're gone. Another app I want to mention is Twitter. Now, a lot of conventions will keep last-minute updates published. They'll publish them on Twitter. So if you have a Twitter client, even if you don't post anything yourself, it's worth having a Twitter client just to see, oh, well, here's the latest updates, and here's everything the convention has to say about what new panels there may be at the last minute or what may have been canceled. There's also hashtags you can follow for the convention to see what other people are saying about it. And Facebook, of course, has an app. There's also apps for Google+, Pinterest, Instagram, and you can follow more stuff about the convention in there. You can check in on Foursquare. A lot of conventions have that. And we also, if you view the con page on AnimeCons.com, we have a link so you can add the convention to Foursquare, and it shows up on that convention's weekend on the convention page. We also have links to Google Plus and Facebook and Pinterest, so you can add those to your profiles on those social media. Finally, the last thing I want to mention is there's an app, GroupMe, and it's a group chat tool. When you use this, instead of having to group text people, you can actually have like a group chat. And it's all within the GroupMe app. You can share your location if you want, and that's registered into the Foursquare location database. Or you can just chat and say, hey, I'm going to this. And it sends it all through the GroupMe app, so you don't waste your text messages. And also, it interfaces with iPhone, Android, iPad, and so it's a handy tool to be able to have the group chat without the annoyance of group texting where one person replies and it goes just to you, and when you reply to them it goes just to them and not the whole group. There's whole issues about group texting, and GroupMe solves it, so it's a great tool. And so those are some great apps that you can use at conventions, and check them out.
Voicemails! And this month's voicemail starts us off with this one.
Hey, this is Kmon from Lakeshore, Ohio. Great show, guys. I'm really
Thank you.
Appreciate watching this every month. So keep it up, alright? Bye.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it up. Keep it straight up. Well, let's roll into number 2. No, number 2? People lie to me all the time. But don't lie to us. Please call us if you have a con report or fun things to say at 762-ADEQUATE. That's 762-233-7828. Please follow us at all our social medias, which you can find at the bottom of AnimeCons.com and FanCons.com. And going to NecoCon, look for Doug. He is so happy to go and so willing to see people. Bye. Voicemails. So this month's voicemail, we'll start off with the first one. Roll it.
I had the Gmail up and